Hi, I'm Beck from Kentucky Equine Research, and I'm here with Amanda, and we are having a chat this afternoon about adjusting feed rations. So, Amanda, we have just gone through and adjusted a few of the horses for seasonal reasons, but also for workload reasons. So, what have we done?
Okay, so we've had one horse that has retired. We've had one that's been retired, but from competition, but is in about 3 days' work, and so we're trying to work on him not getting too fat with the season and the grass. And then we've got 3 were eventers that are now show jumpers. So we're then looking at how we need to change their diets from their gallop work, which they're not doing as much of now, to jumping work.
Perfect. Right. Okay, so obviously pasture was the foundation. So we walked around outside. We had a look at what pasture you've got. Second to that, we looked at hay. So what sort of hay do these guys get?
They just get a very basic grass hay. We got a bulk load that it's not the best hay in the world, but it's dust free. And it means that we can feed all of the horses in the yard the same hay. But we also bought lucerne as well, so I like to add that to the competition horses once they start working a little bit harder.
Perfect. So keeping foundation, even at horses at your level, the foundation is still forage and roughage. So that pasture hay, and then you feed chaff?
Only lucerne chaff. So I learnt from you guys, not feeding very much chaff. So I think we had between half a scoop to 1 scoop. And then I figured that because also in winter they're stabled, so that was the difference. Summer they're out 24/7, winter they're stabled. So they're having extra hay in the box obviously at night. And then there's half of them that are out 24/7. Oh, and they're also locked up in yards at night, so they have to have hay. They're off the grass as well. Then
perfect. Okay, and you feed that hay out in a slow feed or a hay net?
Yeah, absolutely. So the slow feed hay net, obviously, so that they eat it a bit more slowly, but also because we've got a couple of horses that are so messy, so they pull it all over the place and they wee on it, which is not great. And then with one horse, we put it into a porter grazer because he paws on the hay net and wrecks it.
Perfect. So adequate forage, so grass, hay, chaff. Then most of them, actually all of them pretty much, need a concentrate feed of some description, so a pellet or a grain to make up that shortfall of calories they need to perform. So you feed predominantly low GI cube.
For sure.
And we do that for slow release energy, lots of reasons, but that's the basis. Now, one thing we do, some of them don't get very much, so how do we make sure that that's still a balanced ration?
So we looked at, and I remember you educating me to this, so I like the low GI because with eventers they're so fit, and not that I've had a problem with any of the horses tying up, but I wanted to have that slow release energy. So they all do really well on the low GI. And so we're going into, what are we now? We're autumn going into winter. And then when we get a bit of grass in spring, I can sort of back the low GI off a little bit if the grass is good, but then obviously the competition season ramps up a bit then too, so that's an interesting balance. I think Diesel, he was the only one that is not on low GI, so he's the horse that he's had some soft tissue injuries, so he's retired from competition, but he's in about 3 days a week work, and he does get chubby, and he gets is it like grass mumps? He gets quite filled around his jowls as well. So what did we do with him? We did
So for him we did all phase. So all phase is a balancer pellet. So great for those ones that are good doers, get a bit chubby. So we keep the roughage up to them. So he's still on his hay and speedy beat and chaff, but then he still needs his vitamins and minerals. So we give that in a balancer pellet like all phase.
Absolutely.
And then the others actually some of them get a bit of all phase as well if they are being fed low GI below their recommended intake rate. So we want to balance that and bring those vitamins and minerals up to where they are. Because vitamins and minerals have a lot of really important functions in the body, most of which we can't even see. So, eyesight, bone, cartilage health, all of those things, which they might look fat and shiny, but That's really important for performance horses.
Yeah, and I find that too, that the horses can look really, really good, but they run out of energy quite quickly if they don't have a good nutrient base.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how much low GI, remind me, do I have to feed at a minimum to get a full vitamin and mineral coverage?
Yep, so varies depending on workload and size of the horse.
Yep.
So you've got similar requirements, but we're looking at around that 3 kilo mark.
Yep.
So a lot of them are below that, and we want to keep these meal sizes small as well, even though they are getting fed twice a day.
Yep.
So if it's below that, we add in all phase.
Yep.
If we're feeding at that and they need a little bit more, either for maintaining body condition or energy levels, that's when we look at Equidul,
which
a few do have in there.
So with Huey here, so he gets a little bit lean, like he's a lean horse.
Yep.
So although he's got good top line, he just tucks up a little bit. And I think also with the eventers that once they've done some fitness preps, they tuck up quite quickly and tighten up quite quickly. So I don't need them to do that as much, and I want to make sure that when they're travelling to shows, like we can do show jumping shows now 2 weekends in a row. So I've just done a 3-day show at Bonio, and now this coming week I'm doing a 3-day show at Werribee. So that's when I want to make sure he doesn't tuck up.
Correct.
So what do? We increased, he was on 1... Now, how much is that per scoop? That's like 1.1? Yeah, 1.1 kilos. So we've given him another half a scoop. So that'd be, is that all?
You're getting close.
Close to 300, 3 kilos a day. And then they're all on Speedy Beat. I think he was on a bit less Speedy Beat because he doesn't eat it as much. And then we had Huey on a quarter of the Equidul, so you told me that covers all of his nutritional needs.
Correct. And I mean, the Equidul.
I'm getting this.
She's good.
Starting to understand this. Okay. And then we had Vendy. So Vendy was only on 1 scoop, so 1.1, so about 2.2 kilos a day. So he was going to be deficient in vitamins and minerals. So he's having 100 grams morning and night of the all phase. And then he gets a quarter of the Equidul at the moment. But if he hasn't been to shows, he tends to get a little full of himself. And it's the only horse I have that I think Equidul makes him a little bit more boisterous. Everything else I have never found they've had that effect.
No, that's right. So, and that's where, you balance the ration. So you start at the beginning, you work through, so you do your forage, or your roughage, and we do include Speedy Beat in that, because Speedy Beat actually has a lot of calories in it.
Which I didn't realise until you told me the other day.
So, I mean, that's a great thing for performance horses, because we can actually boost calorie intake without the fizz and the starch, which some horses just can't handle, for many reasons. So Equidul can come in and out of the ration, like you said, in accordance to work, because we're not relying on it for its vitamin and mineral content. It's there to provide that slow release energy as well. So after we balance the diet, then we look at the supplements. So the supplements are there to fill in a gap or a special need that they have. So
they've all got special needs.
All got special needs.
Yes. Well, they do, don't they?
They do.
They've got quite a big job to do.
And I mean, they're high performance horses, so very natural that they need a gut supplement or they need electrolyte. So anything sweating needs an electrolyte. So there are a couple of the supplements that you do use.
So I've learned that Equisure is my go-to, and the reason for that is that very early on working with you guys, you taught me that the digestive system needs to work properly in order to be able to take in all the nutrients and use them properly. So if they are not digesting their food properly, then you're basically throwing away all the feed, or you find you're feeding more.
Correct.
So we've gone now to feeding these little buckets like that, and it'll just be maybe a third in the bottom, and I find they do really well.
Absolutely.
So Equisure, absolutely every horse. And it depends on the amount. Like we've had one, Tora, who's my old 5-star horse. She, when we first got her back from having a foal, had the runs quite a bit. We found by giving her a bigger dose of Equisure, it actually fixed it, which was amazing.
Absolutely.
And then you were saying electrolytes, so you also recommended that they're on salt. So everything there that's on electrolyte gets 30 grams of just straight table salt.
Plain salt.
And then the Restore, I've just got the 3 boys, because we're in winter. They're not galloping and they're not sweating as much. But the 3 boys that are competing have got their electrolytes once a day. And I do have the Restore paste in the truck. So I use those in addition if they're travelling or extra sweat.
Yep.
And then the others, because they're not doing the work and they're not really sweating, they just get the salt.
Yep.
What else have we got now?
So we've got EO3 in there.
Yes, I love EO3 because of its anti-inflammatory effect.
Yep.
And I think, when you see there's an oil, everyone goes, oh, it's just for shiny coats.
Yep.
But you were telling me once when I had a horse that was blowing a little bit when he was doing his fast work, that it can really help, because it makes the single red blood cells more flexible, so they go through a single cell capillary even faster. And no kidding, I was comparing my 2 horses, and after the horse that was blowing had been on the EO3 for a while, that improved.
Yeah, absolutely. And, respiratory health in general, so just reducing that inflammation also.
And because it's only, was it 30 mils once a day?
Yeah.
It's not a lot, so we get a big container and it lasts us for ages.
Yeah.
And the dogs lick the container clean.
Yeah, they love it.
All the time. And then BioBloom, which according to my farrier, some horses are not allowed to have it because it makes their feet grow too fast. But I do use that with these guys because they are being shod and working really hard regularly, and they're doing quite a lot of work on their feet, and I want the hoof quality to be really good, because if they rip a shoe off, we need to make sure that we can nail it back in again, and if they've got brittle feet, that makes life really hard.
Difficult. And you get the spin-off benefit of a really shiny coat.
Yeah, exactly.
Which they all look beautiful.
Yeah,
so that's pretty good.
I need to have some. Anyway, my nails would be a lot better. So
awesome.
so they were the ones. I mean, we've had other ones that we've put them on from time to time, but it's all depended, hasn't it, on like if I ring Beck with a problem, I say, Beck, I've got one that's doing this. What do we do? So we add or subtract stuff. And
depending on season, your competition schedule, and if you're having to travel.
Absolutely.
If you're going far, like long distance travel. And we also touch base, about feeding before work. Body condition, all of those things on a pretty regular basis.
So I like that if I go away to a show, I'll do an order and I will make sure we've got drink up. So that we can put that in the water to encourage the horses to drink, because sometimes when you go to like Adelaide, the water tastes a little bit different. So that's
bit
always
funky.
Yeah, exactly. And I use that product when I can train the horses to drink. So the minute I've got off them after work, I offer them a little drink and then they start to look for it. So that's good. And then we used Nano E and Q10 for travelling.
Yes, definitely.
So that's a highly, is it bioavailable vitamin E?
Look at you go.
I know, right? I listen to the things.
You listen to what I say.
So when we took Zazie to the UK and flew her over there, she had already started before we left and put her on a course of those products. She had them in her flight bag on the trip. And then when she landed for a period of time. And then through the competitions and then on the way back. And she travelled like a boss. She was great.
Absolutely.
And then obviously the Restore Pace for competition in the truck. I think they're the main ones that I always just get extra for.
And I think nutrition in general, people get very overcomplicated with it. And I think you just need to sometimes step back and get someone to help you and look at it and go, right, we build the ration from the ground up. So we look at the pasture, then we look at the hay, we look at other roughage sources like your speedy beet or your chaff, then find a concentrate feed that's going to work for you, whether it's a grain or a premixed feed or a pellet. Then if we need more, we can add in Equidul, and supplements come last. It is. It's much easier than it used to be. I think. And also, like when I see now people feeding 2 scoops of white chaff. I call it white or green. 2 scoops of white chaff, 2 scoops of green chaff. I now realise that you don't need to do that. Just give them a little bit. And even with the low GI pellet, also when I went to the UK, they don't have chaff. No, that's right. It's a very Australian thing. So I've now learnt that the low GI pellet, because it is bigger, can be fed on the ground. It doesn't break down. And the more they chew, the more they salivate, and that helps them with their digestion. Because it helps to suppress the the digestive acid. Stomach acid. So that's right. Keeps the pH a bit happier there. So the more time they spend chewing, the healthier they're going to digest their food and the smaller amounts. Absolutely. So I guess if we had to up any more food in terms of quantity, I would feed them 3 times a day. And especially in winter at stabled at night, they can have
a late feed?
Yes, yep. So you can either feed them more frequently, so 3 times a day, and if that's not practical from a management point of view, you can either increase your equidual to increase your energy density without increasing volume dramatically because it's so high in calories.
Yeah, cool.
And on the flip side, if anyone was getting a little too chubby or they go for a spell, we can reduce. We would firstly go to reduce your hard feed before we would reduce the hay and the roughage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do find with the equidual, as I said, I've only ever had one horse that seems to get a little bit excited on it. But when I've had a horse that, especially with an eventer that's been really lean, I've fed quite a bit of it. I've actually managed to feed like a sort of a good kilo morning and night. And often people say, oh, that's quite a lot. But it's only had to last for about 3 months, and then they've suddenly stabilised, and then I can, really reduce the ration, but they keep that top line and that condition. So I found that really interesting about that feed.
And keeping that gut health really sound in general is really, really important as well.
And I think anything that is really well made, the dogs love.
The taste testers adore.
Love equidual. Low GI they love, but equidual they go crazy for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I must say the dogs are in good shiny condition.
They certainly are. And they were actually our taste testers when we brought it back a little while ago.
That's right. So
for sure.
Anyway, but no, it's great. So having your information, whenever I need or I'm worried about something or a change of the season, Beck's just come and we've just done a whole big change of a few bits and pieces because I felt that I wanted to go over it again as I'm now doing more show jumping than eventing, and it's been very interesting. Thank you, Beck.
You're welcome. So certainly would encourage anyone. There's no questions. Lots of people get confused. So no questions are too silly. So definitely just get in touch with us and we can do the same sort of thing for you guys.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You won't regret it, and it's information that you take for the rest of your life.
For sure.
It's really, I'm very grateful to have all that info. So thank you.
No worries. Thanks, guys.